Sarah Mitchell sat in the hospital waiting room, her hands folded tightly in her lap. At 32, she'd always been the quiet one in any room, the kind of person who preferred books to parties, who listened more than she spoke. Her long blonde hair fell softly around her shoulders as she stared at the floor, trying to calm the nervous flutter in her chest. The surgery she needed wasn't life-threatening, but it was deeply personal, a gynecological procedure that made her feel vulnerable in ways she'd never experienced before. She'd put it off for months, but her doctor had been firm. It was time. Sarah Mitchell? A nurse appeared at the doorway, clipboard in hand, wearing a kind smile that immediately put Sarah at ease. Sarah stood on shaky legs and followed the nurse down the quiet hallway. The hospital smelled of antiseptic and something else. Hope, perhaps. Or maybe just clean linens. "Dr. Bennett will be with you shortly," the nurse said gently, helping Sarah into the hospital gown and making sure she was comfortable on the examination table. "He's wonderful." "You're in good hands," Sarah nodded, pulling the thin blanket closer around herself. She felt so exposed, so small. When the door opened again, she looked up expecting to see an older gentleman with gray hair and wire-rimmed glasses. Instead, a young man in scrubs walked in. He couldn't have been older than 35, with dark hair and an unexpectedly warm presence that filled the room. "Hello, Sarah. I'm Dr. Michael Bennett." His voice was calm, reassuring. He didn't rush to her side, but took a moment to wash his hands thoroughly, giving her time to adjust to his presence. "I know this isn't easy. I want you to know that your comfort and dignity are my first priority today." Something in his voice made Sarah's shoulders relax just slightly. He pulled up a stool and sat down, not towering over her, but meeting her at eye level. "I've reviewed your medical history," he continued. "Before we proceed, I want to answer any questions you might have. And I want you to know that if at any point you feel uncomfortable, we can pause. This is your body, and you're in control here." Sarah felt tears prick at the corners of her eyes. She'd been so afraid of being treated like just another patient, another case number. I'm just nervous," she admitted quietly. "I've never had surgery before." Michael nodded with understanding. "That's completely natural. Let me explain exactly what we're going to do today, step by step. And I'll be talking to you throughout the procedure. You won't be alone for a moment." As he explained the surgery in clear, gentle terms, Sarah found herself breathing easier. There was something about the way he spoke, the way he never made her feel foolish for her fears, that reminded her of her father. That same patient kindness. What Sarah didn't know, and what Michael would never mention, was that he came from considerable wealth. His family owned a successful pharmaceutical company, and he could have easily taken a position in management, living a life of comfort and ease. But Michael had always known his calling was different. He'd gone to medical school against his father's wishes, choosing to work with his hands and his heart rather than from behind a desk. His father had called it foolish. His mother thankfully understood. The surgery went smoothly. True to his word, Michael talked to Sarah throughout, his voice a steady anchor. When she woke in recovery, slightly groggy but without pain, he was there, checking her vitals himself rather than delegating to a nurse. "How are you feeling?" he asked softly. "Better than I expected," Sarah admitted. "Thank you for being so kind." Michael smiled. "Kindness costs nothing. It's the least I can offer." Over the next few weeks, Sarah returned for follow-up appointments. Each time, Michael treated her with the same gentle respect. He never rushed, never made her feel like an inconvenience. During her third visit, as he reviewed her healing progress with satisfaction, Sarah finally found the courage to ask the question that had been puzzling her. "Dr. Bennett, can I ask you something? You seem, I don't know, different from other doctors I've met." Michael looked up from her chart, curious. "Different how?" Sarah blushed. "You really care. Not just about the medical stuff, but about people, about how they feel." Michael set down the chart and leaned back in his chair. For a moment, he seemed to be deciding how much to share. "My mother," he said finally, "went through something similar when I was young. She had a doctor who treated her like a problem, to be solved, rather, than a person to be cared for. It was humiliating for her. Traumatic, even." He paused, his expression distant with memory. "I decided then that if I ever became a doctor, I would remember that every patient is someone's mother, someone's daughter, someone's beloved friend. They deserve to be treated with dignity." Sarah felt her throat tighten with emotion. She raised a good son. She tried her best, Michael said with a soft smile. And I try my best to honor that. On Sarah's final follow-up appointment, she was declared fully healed. As she gathered her things to leave, she felt an unexpected sadness. These visits had become a bright spot in her weeks, a reminder that there were still good people in the world. "Sarah," Michael said as she reached the door, "I hope you don't mind me saying this, but you seem much more confident than when you first came in. It's good to see." Sarah turned back, surprised. I think facing something scary and having someone be kind through it makes you realize you're stronger than you thought. That's wisdom, Michael said approvingly. Hold on to that. As Sarah left the hospital for the last time as a patient, she carried with her more than just physical healing. She carried the knowledge that vulnerability wasn't weakness, that asking for help was brave, and that true kindness existed in the world in the most unexpected places. Michael watched her go, then turned back to his work. He had more patients to see, more people who needed not just his medical expertise but his compassion. His father still didn't understand why he'd chosen this path, working long hours for a fraction of what he could earn elsewhere. But Michael understood. Some wealth couldn't be measured in money. It was measured in the quiet gratitude of a shy young woman finding her strength, in the trust of patients who felt truly cared for, in the knowledge that he was living a life of purpose. That evening, as he drove home past the gleaming corporate building where his family's company, headquarters, stood, Michael didn't feel envy or regret. He felt peace, because he'd learned what his father never had, that the richest life isn't the one with the most money. It's the one with the most meaning. It's found in small moments of connection, in treating others with dignity, in choosing kindness even when no one's watching. Sarah had taught him that just as much as he'd helped her. In her quiet courage, in her gradual blooming from fear to confidence, she'd reminded him why he'd chosen this path. Sometimes the greatest healing happens not in the body, but in the heart. And sometimes both doctor and patient walk away changed for the better. That, Michael thought as he finally headed home, was the real miracle of medicine. Not just fixing what's broken, but reminding people of their own strength, their own worth, their own dignity, and doing it all with a gentle hand and a kind heart.